Hello everyone, welcome to this second video in our C programming language with SQLite database series. This is a continuation of our first video. In this video, we will learn how to work with C programming language, SQLite database and tables. In the process of working with C programming language with SQLite database and tables, we will learn how to create a new database or connect to an existing database. We will create a table and we will insert data into the table that we are going to create. To do that, you can use any IDE of your choice, but I will be working with SQLite Test, which is the IDE I used in my previous video. To do that, now I will open a project in SQLite Test. This is the same project that I created in my previous video, and I'm going to open it in File Explorer. This is exactly the same project. Now I will create a file that I will use for the C programming language. Currently, this is how the folder structure looks. Now I am going to create a file here. New file. I will name it database and table.c. Database and table.c. Hit enter. Great. Now I have a new file here named database and table.c. Now I will start to enter C code. First, I will add the C header files. Include stdio.h, include double quote SQLite / SQLite 3.c. The SQLite here is for the folder SQLite, which includes these files. The SQLite 3.c is one of the files. That is why I have to include it here. If you are using an IDE that allows you to add header files, or if you are using a package manager, you would need the open angle bracket here and the closing angle bracket here without the quotation marks. Now I will say int main int argc comma char space const space asterisk argv opening square bracket closing square bracket curly brackets. Here I will enter return 0 semicolon. Now I will create some variables here. The first one will be SQLite 3 space asterisk db semicolon. The db is a pointer to SQLite. Now I'll create another variable char, and it is a pointer as well. er r underscore msg equal 0. I will initialize it to 0. Now I will create another variable here, int con semicolon. Now let's initialize this variable con. That will be con equals SQLite 3 underscore open, and the name of our database, double quotes, I'll call it student.db, comma, and let's reference db here, ampersand db, semicolon. Now we are using the con variable here, and we've assigned it this SQLite 3 underscore open function, and this SQLite 3 underscore open function takes two arguments. We are passing in these two parameters here, students.db, which is for the database, and we are using a reference here to this pointer db. Now that we have opened our database, it's always a good idea to close it straight away and start doing something between the opening statement and the closing statement for the database. To do that, I will add a comment here, close database connection. Close database connection, and that will be SQLite 3 underscore close db semicolon. So now we can add our code in between the two functions, that is the opening function and the closing function. But before we add more code to it, first let's save, compile and run our file. To do that, I will open the command prompt cmd. You can use any feature that your IDE provides for you to compile and run your C application. In my case, I will open the cmd and navigate to the location of that file. Where is the location of the file? I will open my file explorer. This is the part that I'm working on, which is same as the one we have here, So I'm going to navigate to this part through the command prompt. I'll open again the file explorer, copy the path here. Now open my cmd, then change directory to that path, cd, this path, hit enter. Great. Now I am going to compile the C application with GCC compiler. That will be GCC space -0 space, the name of the file that I'm going to run. We'll call it my student space. What file am I compiling? Database and table.c. So GCC space -o space my students and database and table.c, which is the name of the file we just created. Now hit enter. Great, it was compiled successfully. Now let's run it. What are we running? My students. Hit enter. Great, it was run successfully. Now let's check our file explorer to see if that database was actually created or not. We open the file explorer. Great, exactly, we have a database here now named students.db, and this is our database, students.db, and it shows at the moment 0 KB because we don't have any table or content inside that database at the moment. Let's do that. We now minimize this and minimize this. We know for sure now that the database was created successfully, but we can do a check to see if it was created or not. In case it wasn't created, then we'll be able to find out why it was not created. So let's do a check here, and I will add a comment here. Check connection to database was successful. I will use an if statement here. If con is not equal SQLite underscore OK, and print something. That will be fprint stderr, that's standard error, comma, double quotes, cannot connect to database space %s, because that will return a string of characters. Then the SQLite 3 ERR message. The message is about DB. then semicolon. Let's move this way a bit. SQLite 3 underscore close what? Close DB, semicolon, return 1, semicolon. If everything runs correctly, it will return 0. If it doesn't run correctly, it will return 1. Let's move this one up. Now let's create our table. I will leave a comment here. Create a table. I will first create a variable here. It will be char pointer. Call it SQL underscore QRY, which is for query, equals double quotes here, and we can say create table if not exists degree students, semicolon. Or we can do it in a different way. We can say drop table if exists degree students, then we create it. So we can do it both ways. So drop table if exists degree students. Now let's create it. Create table degree students. Now let's add some columns to our table. The first one here will be student underscore ID, that will be int, comma. Second one will be first name, that will be text, and the third one will be last name, which will also be text. So we will use both int and text data type for these 3 columns and semicolon. So the next thing now is for us to insert data into our table. These 2 statements here, we have one, we drop the table if it already exists, degree students, and the second one, we create a table, degree students, with these 3 columns. Now let's insert data into our table. That will be double quotes, insert into degree students. The first one is student ID. I'll put in here 34756129, comma, single quote, because we are doing this within double quotes. So first name be Bev, comma, single quote, last name will be Donaldson, semicolon. We insert another one, double quotes, insert into degree students, two 4007941, comma, single quote, Ella, comma, single quotes, Jones. Now I can do copy and paste here. I'm going to add a few more rows in our table. So to save time, I will just copy this line and paste it right below it a few times. Okay, move this up a bit. Now I will change these names and the student ID numbers. 33734902. Dave breaks. This one 8 5110429. Barry Williamson. This one 77190622. Erica Moreliso. This one 2891747. Musa Ibrahim. This one 438092226. George for the first name and the last name. Harris. Let's change this one 72995713. Vicky Dance. This one 55782190. Bob Drake. The last one here 11637092. Helen Gray. And this one here should end with a semicolon as well, because this one ends the statement while this one only ends this insert statement. So this will now insert 10 rows into our table. Now the next thing is for us to execute this query that we have created. I will leave a comment here. Execute the query. Remember, let me move this one up a bit. The name of our variable for opening the database is con, so we will use that one to execute the query. That will be con equals SQLite 3 exec. SQLite 3 underscore exec. Before we fill this function with the parameters that it expects as values, it is important to understand that the SQLite 3 underscore exec function is a convenient wrapper around SQLite 3 underscore prepare underscore v2, SQLite 3 underscore step, and SQLite 3 underscore finalize that allow an application to run multiple statements of SQL without having to use a lot of C code. It takes 5 arguments, so we'll pass in 5 parameters. The first one is DB, comma, then the second one will be SQL underscore QRY, which we created, and the third and fourth one we can just add 0 there if we don't want to fill it. Now we can make a reference to the error message and semicolon, like we did here at the top by checking the connection to the database. Let's do a check for the database creation as well. So I will add another comment here, say check that the query was implemented successfully. Check that the query was implemented successfully. I will use an if statement here. Before then, let's move this one up a bit. If con not equals SQLite OK, fprint stderr, standard error, double quotes, unable to create table, /n, that's for new line. Again, another statement, fprint stderr, comma, double quotes, you have SQL error, or let's put an S there for errors. Now percentage sign S, because that would be a string of characters, space /n for new line, comma, then the error message, semicolon. Now let's free the error message. That will be SQLite 3 underscore free what? Error message, semicolon, and SQLite 3 close DB, semicolon as well. Return what? Return 1. Normally, if everything goes well, it will return 0. But in this case, if there is an error message, so it will return 1. Else, fprintf, std, standard error, comma, double quotes, table created and data inserted successfully, semicolon. So that is all it is to create a database, create a table, and insert data into the table using C programming language and the SQLite database engine. So now let's save, compile, and run our application. To do that, I will open the command prompt again. You can run it the way you normally use your IDE to run your C application. GCC space -o space my students, that's the name of the file I'm going to run, space database and table.c, which is the name of the C file that I'm going to compile. Now hit enter. Great, all was compiled successfully. Now let's run it. My students, hit enter. Great, I've got an error in my code. It says syntax error, and here it says unable to create table. You have SQL error near 34756129 as the student ID. So let's fix that. As the first one here, this is the student number. Okay, there is an error here. That was my mistake. I forgot to add values to it. So I will select everything here and add it in one go. Space, values, space. I will save it. So that was my mistake. Apologies for that. The right SQL statement should be insert into degree students values, the student ID, the first name, and the last name. Now I'm going to save it, compile it, and run it again. Great, it was compiled successfully. Now let's run it. Exactly. Here it says table created and data inserted successfully. Now let's look at our folder, and it is right in here. It says students.db, and if you look at it now, it says 8 KB. Initially it was 0 KB, now it is 8 kilobyte, which means we have added a table and we have inserted data into the table correctly. So this is how you use SQLite and C programming language to create a database, create a table, and insert data into the table. In my next video, we will display or show the data that we have inserted in our table. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye for now.